Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that almost everyone your species ever knew was gone. No cities, no armies, no thousands of distant communities, just tiny groups of humans scattered across a dangerous, changing world. And this isn't science fiction. Scientists believe our ancestors may have lived through a population bottleneck so severe that humanity came frighteningly close to disappearing forever. Some estimates have suggested that the number of breeding humans may have fallen to around 1,000, or potentially even fewer. Think about that. The entire future of our species could have been hanging by a thread. And those people didn't know it. They weren't looking at charts or studying ancient DNA. They were simply trying to survive another day, find food, find water, protect their children, survive the cold. And somehow, they did. But what pushed humanity so close to the edge? Was it a changing climate, a devastating catastrophe, or something even more dangerous? And how did those tiny groups of survivors eventually become billions of people spread across almost every corner of Earth? To understand how humanity survived, we have to go back to the moment when the world itself began turning against them. The world our ancestors lived in was nothing like the one we know today. There were no supermarkets, no farms stretching across the horizon, no warehouses filled with food. If you didn't find something to eat, you simply went hungry. And for early humans, that problem could become deadly very quickly. Thousands of years ago, Earth's climate was shifting dramatically. Huge areas of the planet were becoming colder and drier, while familiar landscapes were changing. The animals humans depended on could disappear from one region and reappear hundreds of miles away. Water sources could vanish. Plants that once provided food could become scarce. And when the environment changed faster than a small population could adapt, people died. But imagine how terrifying this would have been if you were one of them. You wouldn't know that Earth's climate was changing. You wouldn't understand ice ages or atmospheric conditions. You wouldn't have weather forecasts. You would only know that the place where your parents had found food was suddenly becoming empty. So your group would move, and then move again, following animals, following rivers, following whatever signs of life remained. But there was a much bigger problem hiding underneath all of this. There were already very few of you. Scientists studying human genetics have found evidence that our ancestors experienced severe population bottlenecks, periods when the number of reproducing humans may have fallen dramatically. And this is where the story becomes frightening. Because a small population doesn't just mean fewer people. It means fewer chances to survive. Imagine a community of only a few dozen people. If several hunters die, the group loses valuable knowledge. If disease spreads, there may not be enough healthy people to recover. If several adults die during one brutal winter, children may not survive either. And if the population becomes too small, one bad event can wipe out an entire branch of humanity. There was no safety net, no hospital, no emergency food supply, no second chance. But humans had one weapon that didn't require claws, fangs, or enormous strength: each other. A successful hunt could feed an entire group. An experienced person could remember where water was hidden. Someone could know which plants were poisonous. Someone else could understand how to make a better shelter, and that knowledge could be shared. This may have been one of the greatest reasons humans survived. Our ancestors didn't have to face the environment alone. They could cooperate. They could warn each other. They could care for injured members. And most importantly, they could pass knowledge from one generation to the next. That meant a discovery made by one person could survive long after that person was gone. A better way to make fire, a better hunting technique, a safer place to cross a river, or a new way to protect a child from the cold. Knowledge became something humans could inherit without it being written in their DNA. But even cooperation couldn't guarantee survival because something much bigger was happening to the planet. And somewhere beyond the small camps where these people struggled to stay alive, the environment was changing again. Temperatures were falling, habitats were shifting, and the world was entering one of the most dangerous periods our ancestors had ever experienced. The survivors didn't know it yet, but they were standing at the edge of a catastrophe, and the next event would make the struggle for survival even more desperate. And then, something happened that may have changed the course of human history. Around 74,000 years ago, a massive volcano erupted in what is now Indonesia. It was the Toba supereruption. The eruption was enormous. Ash and volcanic material were blasted high into the atmosphere, spreading across huge areas. And, for a species already living in a harsh world, this could have been devastating. The sky may have darkened, temperatures may have dropped, plants would have struggled in some regions, and the animals that depended on those plants would have faced the consequences. For humans living from one meal to the next, even a temporary disruption could be deadly. Imagine waking up, and the landscape that once provided food is suddenly becoming harder to survive in. The animals are harder to find, plants are disappearing, the cold is getting worse, and your group has no idea when it will end. But here's where the story gets complicated. For decades, scientists wondered whether the Toba eruption caused a massive human population crash. It sounded almost perfect. A gigantic eruption, a dramatic climate disruption, and a human population that may have already been extremely small. But newer archaeological and climate evidence has made the story much less simple. Humans appear to have survived in different regions, and some evidence suggests the eruption may not have caused a worldwide human near-extinction event. So the famous story of only 1,000 humans survived Toba should not be treated as established fact. The real story is more fascinating, because humanity didn't need one single catastrophe to bring it close to the edge. For thousands of years, our ancestors faced changing climates, food shortages, disease, predators, accidents, and the constant danger of living in tiny populations. And yet, they kept going. Generation after generation, the population slowly recovered, groups expanded, they moved into new environments, they crossed mountains, they followed coastlines, they entered forests and grasslands, and eventually humans reached places their ancestors could never have imagined.